They tell you that when you grow old, you should lower your expectations. Speak softly. Ask for less. Be grateful for whatever attention you're given. I believed that for a long time. I am 67 years old, and until recently, I still believed that love, especially a mother's love, was something you earned by enduring quietly. The day it happened, I was lying in a hospital bed. Nothing dramatic at first. Just pain in my chest that wouldn't settle. Dizziness that made the ceiling spin. The nurse kept asking me questions while adjusting wires and monitors. I remember thinking how strange it was that strangers seemed more concerned about me than my own children. I called them myself. My hands shook as I dialed, not from fear, but from hope, foolish, stubborn hope. My eldest answered first. His voice was rushed. Loud music played in the background. "Mom, is everything okay?" he asked, already sounding annoyed. "I'm in the hospital," I said. "They're running tests. I need you here." There was a pause. Then muffled laughter. Someone shouting about cake. "Oh," he said, lowering his voice. "We're at my wife's party. It's her birthday." I waited for him to say he was leaving. I waited for concern, for urgency. Instead, he added, "It's probably nothing, Mom. You always worry too much." I called my daughter next. No answer. Then my youngest. "Mom today?" he sighed. "You know how important this party is to her." Her. Not me. Not the woman lying alone under fluorescent lights, wondering if this was the day her heart would finally give up. They chose the party, every single one of them. I stared at my phone after the calls ended, the screen dark and silent. No one asked how serious it was. No one said, "I'm on my way." No one chose me. That was the moment something inside me shifted. Not anger, clarity. The doctor came in later, explaining risks, procedures, words that usually frighten people. I listened calmly. I wasn't afraid of dying. I was afraid of living the rest of my life the same way I had lived it so far, waiting. Waiting for calls that came late. Waiting for visits that never happened. Waiting for love that always seemed busy. As I lay there, I thought about the years I had given them. The meals cooked. The nights awake. The money quietly transferred when they needed help. The apologies I made even when I wasn't wrong. I had taught them that I would always wait, and now they expected it. That night, alone in that hospital room, I made a promise to myself. If I survived this, and I knew somehow that I would stop begging to be chosen. I would choose myself. They danced under bright lights that night, laughing, celebrating, believing I would still be there when it was convenient. They had no idea that the woman they left behind was quietly letting go. Not out of bitterness, but out of self-respect. When they finally showed up, it was already morning. I had spent the night listening to the steady beep of machines and the soft footsteps of nurses passing my door. Somewhere between midnight and dawn, the fear left me. In its place came something steadier, resolve. They walked in together, tired and slightly annoyed, like people who had been inconvenienced rather than frightened. My daughter-in-law didn't come. Of course she didn't. "Oh, good, you're awake," my eldest said, checking his phone before he looked at me. They said it wasn't serious. I studied his face. The same face I once kissed goodnight when he had nightmares. The same eyes that used to search for me in a crowd. I wondered when they stopped seeing me as someone who could be lost. "I needed you last night," I said quietly. My daughter sighed. "Mom, it was just a scare. You know how dramatic hospitals can be." That word again, dramatic. I didn't argue. I had spent decades explaining myself. I was tired of explaining pain to people who preferred not to feel it. After the doctors cleared me, they talked logistics. Who would drive me home? Who had work? Who had commitments? No one asked how I felt. When I returned to my house, it felt smaller, quieter, like it had been holding its breath for years, and finally exhaled. The next few days I waited. Not for apologies. I knew better, but for acknowledgement. A message, a call, anything that suggested they understood what had happened. Instead, I saw photos online, smiling faces, party memories, captions about family time and beautiful nights. I was in none of them. That's when I stopped waiting. I began doing things slowly, deliberately, sorting papers, opening drawers I hadn't touched in years, reading documents I had signed without question because someone I loved had asked me to trust them. I called my lawyer. "I want to revise everything," I said. "My will, my accounts, all of it." There was a pause on the line. "Is something wrong?" "No," I replied. Something finally became clear. I didn't tell my children. I didn't threaten. I didn't announce. I simply removed myself from the center of their convenience. The money I had set aside for emergencies, secured. The house I planned to leave them, reconsidered. The future they assumed would always include me waiting patiently in the background, gone. Weeks passed. Their calls became less frequent. Then suddenly, more urgent. Mom, why did the bank say the account needs your approval now? Mom, did you change something? Mom, we need to talk. I listened without answering. One evening, my youngest finally came over alone. No excuses. No wife, no party. He sat across from me at the kitchen table and looked around, as if seeing the place for the first time. You're different, he said. I nodded. So are you. He swallowed. We didn't mean to hurt you. I met his eyes. But you did. And then you went back to celebrating. He had no answer. That night, after he left, I stood in front of the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back at me. She looked tired, but she also looked free. I knew then that the hardest part was still coming, not leaving them behind physically, but emotionally, and I was finally ready to do it. The decision didn't come in a rush. It arrived quietly, the way all honest decisions do. One morning I woke up and realized I no longer felt angry, or sad, or even disappointed. I felt clear. And clarity, I learned, is heavier than emotion. Because once you have it, you can't pretend anymore. I wrote them a letter, not because they deserved an explanation, but because I deserved closure. I told them I loved them. I told them I always would. And then I told them the truth. They had never wanted to hear that love does not survive neglect, and family does not mean being available only when it's convenient. I didn't accuse. I didn't beg. I didn't remind them of sacrifices. I simply stated what happened and how it changed me. I explained that the night they chose a party over my hospital bed was the night I understood my place in their lives, and that I was done living in it. I sold the house a month later, not in anger but in freedom. I gave away furniture that carried too many quiet memories. I kept only what felt like mine, books, photographs, a few dishes, and the courage I had finally found. When the papers were signed, my hands didn't shake. I moved to a smaller place near the water, somewhere peaceful, somewhere no one expected anything from me except my own presence. I learned the rhythm of my days again, morning walks, afternoon tea, evenings watching the light fade without waiting for a phone to ring. They called, of course, at first angry, then confused, then afraid. Mom, where are you? Mom, why didn't you tell us? Mom, you can't just disappear. But I could, and I did. I answered once, only once. I didn't disappear, I said gently. I stopped standing where you left me. There was silence on the line, the kind that usually scares people. It didn't scare me anymore. Months passed. Birthdays came and went. So did holidays. Sometimes I felt the ache of distance, but it was different now. Clean. Honest. Not the aching of abandonment, but the ache of choosing yourself for the first time. One evening, sitting by the window as the sky turned gold, I realized something that made me smile. They hadn't just chosen a party over my life. They had chosen the version of me that would always wait. And I had chosen to let her go. I don't hate them. I don't punish them. I don't speak badly of them. I simply live. And in doing so, I finally gave myself the love I spent a lifetime giving away. That is why I left them behind. Not because they failed me, but because I finally chose myself.